Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. I have another channel on which I speak about astrology, and the Facebook page which you find in the description box below. In this video, God has guided me to talk about one of my recent research topics, namely that one finding which is very important, I think, for everyone, is basically that I identified the pattern, namely that I already spoke a lot about these convents, secret societies, all sorts of types of organizations, masonry, and so on and so forth, which all of them do occult practices. So I'm only referring to the ones which do occult practices. In my belief, all of them do. But let's assume that some of them don't. And if that is so, then my discussion refers to those who do or use occult practices, right? Well, what they do, basically, in order to have access at you, because most of these attacks, when they send to you, I mean, we all have a certain degree of protection, okay? And I have explained in previous videos how they use lies and slander and gossip, particularly as a weapon, in order to create fake reasons for accusing you. Either that they simply lie, blatant lies about reality, saying something which really didn't happen, or that they twist the reality. They take out of context situations, and they say only something that you responded, but they never say what kind of provocation they send to you, and so on and so forth. So, and this is the reason why, this is how they use the information in order to create sacrifice rituals, all sorts of punishments, but in essence all is a pretense, all is fake, and in reality is that they know what they want to steal from you. They aim to target you, and to send darkness to you. And for this purpose, then they invent some sort of reasons, and they create all of this drama. But even so, when they do this, normally we have certain degree of protection. And in my research throughout time, I always asked, but how did they get so close? But how did they get to do this? But how did they? So I have researched a lot, many different case studies and many different perspectives, because they're not all identical. They have many ways in which they create this. But one of the most important findings, I believe, in my recent research, is the fact that they use the parents against the children. Namely, that they will do embodiments, because you have a soul connection to your parents, or family, because maybe you have sisters, brothers, something like this. In my case, I only had two parents, adoptive parents, but maybe some families have siblings as well. In any case, a connection, sort of like a blood connection, you see, very close connection to you. It can be close in terms that you love that person a lot, which would be normal because it's a family, right? So it's a deeper connection to you. But also it's close because it's a connection which lasted for a long time during your formative years, when you became from toddler to child, then teenager, then adult, and so on and so forth. So regardless how your relation with your family was, it can be good, special, marvelous, or maybe not so good, bad. Regardless, however, you have deep connections with them because you experienced together, you went through specific period of your time, of your life, together. So unless they did something really, really, really dramatically bad to you, otherwise there's strong connections. But even if they did something bad to you, there's still a strong string between you and them. Even if it's hate, still it's a strong grip. Okay, so is even if you're detached from your family, still it's a stronger grip than you would have as compared to other people, right? The point is, the finding in my research is that they use the parents or the siblings which are closest to you in order to, they use them as a blueprint for further embodiments which they create, fake embodiments. I'll give you one example so you'll understand. Like, for example, they would use the father figure as a blueprint in creating embodiments on different males whom they sent your way as potential lovers, right? And this, they couple this with narcissistic traits, and this is one of the reasons why it's difficult for females to break off in connections with narcissistic partners, because it's beyond just a lover relation. Basically what they do, they create a string between that individual and your father. And on emotional body, essentially when you meet that individual, even though he's your lover, you don't think of him as your father, but he energetically is connected to your father. So even if you want to push him away and you want to break off with him, he still preserves the string between him and your father, or between him and yourself, which goes through your father. I hope I'm making myself clear. The point is, they use the parents in order to access children, regardless of age, both in dream state, but also while you are awake, because it will be much more difficult for you to notice that somebody is in your energetic field if they carry the energy of your parents. You see, they cloak themselves in the energy of your parents, and for this reason they create strings between themselves. And this is a strategy, and I specifically asked God, are these just seldom situations? And God said, no, this is a practice, because this is very easy for them. This is also how they do with necromancy. I explained this in a prophetic writing. They use the deceased ones in your family, first of all, because the church has taught everyone that you have to give forgiveness to those who die. So using a deceased one in your family to connect with you, for them, it makes, first of all, free access at you, because you're not going to reject in your mind a deceased one. Most likely you will be happy that you had the opportunity to dream of that one again, right? And they can transfer karma to you as well, because you give forgiveness to the deceased one always. You see, it's the same with the parents, and you will allow their presence in your energetic field because you think it's somebody from your family who died, right? So it's just like a very fond memory, or a connection with a divine realm where probably that one is. Do you see what I'm saying? So they use family, the closest relatives you have, in order to, and God, these are God's word actually, that they use that blueprint of that individual, and they basically create a transfer of energy to somebody whom they send your way, in order to connect with you, so that person will have more power over you. And you will not be able easily to detach, you will not be able easily to break off with that individual. And even if you break off and you emotionally detach from that individual, that individual still feeds on your energy, and he continues to cloak himself in your parents' energy and stay in your energy field, attached to you, feeding on you. You see what I'm saying? I hope you get it, and I hope you will take the time to research and investigate your own situation and to see to what extent this is valid for you as well. Now, how can this be done? There are different situations for everyone, and this cannot be a general explanation. But some parents are they themselves involved to one degree or another differently with convents. Some of them do this consciously, some maybe unconsciously. It can be done through their place of work, because I explained already that most institutions, particularly if they work in a public institution or something like this, or if they were officers and they were in these institutions which are already involved in doing this, like my father, for example, was an Intel officer. So for him, is his own institution is involved in doing this. So some of your parents might, or family, might not be consciously active member of a convent, but they might be associated somehow. Sometimes maybe unbeknownst to them, sometimes consciously knowing. It could be in many different ways in which they do this. In case that you have parents which are completely away from all these systems, another way in which they do this, I have seen it, is that they start with your parents. So they do a judgment on your parents. They create a situation in which they consider them guilty of something, just like I explained previously, and they make a judgment on them. And part of the punishment could be exactly this, that there will be their blueprint will be used. Sometimes they say this: if you have a good parent who actually doesn't allow in any way access to him or to yourself, you know what they will do? God has shown to me, your parents will be judged that they are not good parents, and they will request that their parental rights will be cancelled, and somebody from their convent should be guardian for you, to take care of you. This is crazy madness, I'm telling you. This is literally madness. But this is how they function. And the problem is, since they are secret societies and nobody is checking on them, they can say whatever in those papers and decisions they make. You see? Because nobody is checking on them. And if somebody would, considering what God has been showing me of them doing, I think it should be very easy for authentic, honest investigator to lock them up, all of them, because it's a lot of it is illegal, and it's as I said previously, much of their accusations actually they go head to head, they contradict each other. So it's pretty obvious that they were doing it on purpose. And also in astral is a rule: if somebody comes to a judge to make a complaint, not only in astral but also in 3D, you have to investigate to make sure. It is not possible that you actually accept whoever says whatever without checking. As a judge, you are guilty if you do this. It's not normal. Because I'll give you an example. Here where I live, there is this local convent, and they have a judge, of course, one of my neighbors. And they made contracts with my ex-husband. And I explained in other videos, I divorced in 2004. 2004. Do you understand how many years have passed? more than 18 years. I never spoke with that man. I had no clue what's going on with him. I never looked for him. I never gave him the opportunity to talk to me. I didn't want to keep in touch with him. Okay, so how would local neighbors be talking with ex-husband from 18 years ago? And basically what was shown to God showed to me was that this individual told them that we're still married, which is not true, and any judge would check on this. It is not possible that you accept that any crazy man who comes to you and says he's married to me, that is true. You cannot do this. But of course, as I said, these are just cover-ups, because essentially the individual knew that I am not married to that individual. He could have checked easily, and so on and so forth. This is the case with much of the judgments which are made in these convents. So it is possible that also this has happened in some of your situations, like your siblings to be themselves victim of these kind of judgments, in order for them to be able to get to you, basically, through that person. So that person becomes collateral damage, basically. It becomes a victim just because they want to use that person to get to you, which I have seen also many times happening. It's not like they would have some sort of remorse. Okay, so the main point was that they use parents in order to get to, and they can use parents in different ways. Sometimes they will cloak themselves in those parents. Sometimes the parents are part of the convent and they give rights to the convents over their children. I have seen this as well happening, which is atrocious, but it's true. It's a reality. And sometimes they just, again, they act upon you, they feed upon from you through that person, either your father, your sibling, or whatever, constantly. They can transfer karma to you through that person, for example. And these are the situations in which it's very hard for you to cut strings with those individuals, simply because they keep a grip on you through your parents. And usually, of course, with your parents, you tend to be more permissive, even if they make a mistake, because you just think, they're your parents, so they get a lot of not easy access to you, but also a lot of undeserved forgiveness through your parents. Okay, so this is the main focus. Now, I try to give you some examples so you can use them in your investigations. How would they be able to get to you, or how would they be able to get to your parent or your sibling? There are many ways. Situations will differ from case to case, but the basic information is this, namely that they use parents and siblings to get to you and to build upon that their own people who will claim you. And especially they do this, as I said, in order for you to be more difficult for you to break off that connection. Because you keep cutting cords, but as long as the connections exist between that individual and your parents, and you continue to have normal relations with your parents or your siblings, then they basically feed on you and they get to continue to maintain those strings. Yeah. Okay, this is one of my latest discoveries. This, again, it's applied worldwide. So I really encourage everyone to investigate their own case and their own family. I'm not encouraging people to turn against their family without any reason. But if your spiritual path is being blocked because of your parents or your siblings, I honestly encourage you to break off with your family, simply because you will find each other in the divine realm at the end of the day. And breaking off with them, as long as they are either working themselves against you or are being used against you, uh, that if you break off with them, then you give them as well help in their own spiritual fighting. Because you have to understand, as long as they are being used to feed on you, they are a vessel. They are used as a vessel. And obviously, they are not strong enough to cut it off. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten to you through them. So somebody has to cut it off. Otherwise, they will feed on them and you continuously. And there will be no success for any of you. So this will be a tough love kind of decision, head over heart decision, but it will be for the benefit of both sides. Both sides, and hopefully, of course, your family will start fighting as well. Now, the purpose of the video was not to advise people what to do. Everybody should do whatever they feel like, but it is a clear fact, not an advice, but a fact, that if this is happening to you, please know that this is the only way that you get rid of these convents which they feed on you, if you cut your parents or siblings off. Not all of them, but those which are being used to feed on you. And if they are part of a convent or they accepted to work with the convent, even as a result of a blackmail or any other circumstances, then you should cut them off, of course. And they should wake up and start fighting for themselves. I will not hesitate in saying that. And I am doing myself the same thing. And I think it's for the good of everybody involved. It's the only way that we can advance towards God and towards light. And the only thing is, that God will take care of everyone. But as long as none of you decides to cut all those strings, none of you can get help from God. Or at least not enough help so you can cut off. Yeah, I'm not going to continue this. The point is, they're using parents or siblings in order to create, to use them as blueprint, and they create literal copycats, doppelgangers, copycats, whatever you call them, of them, which is sent to you on purpose in order to make it more difficult for you to cut it off when you actually decide that relation is draining you, that is not beneficial to you, and so on and so forth. Okay, I hope this information will help you, will generate maybe some decision by somebody who will help at a broader scale, because literally I have been shown that this is done worldwide, that all convents use this. So it's not just one situation, it's that all convents use this in order to have a grip on children, and so on and so forth. And of course, the church and so on. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Please let me know if you have any questions. And if not, I'm gonna see you in the next video.